housing market. Get the latest insights right here.
Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
Hi guys, I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker. And see, he didn't quit.
I didn't quit.
He's back. He's back.
We took a couple of weeks off, and then I got sick last week. I'm still sick. I mean, like I feel like I lost my voice a little bit, which is super weird. But my wife enjoyed that I lost my voice, so that's nice.
That's so frustrating to lose your voice, though.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
And it was from coughing. I had this like non-productive cough. So anyway, this is me getting old. I pulled a muscle in my chest from coughing. It was so bad. It was
I've done
so
that.
stupid.
I'm glad you're back though and feeling better because it's a busy time out there.
It is. So that's what's weird. Like it was weird. Like I wanted to be on because in the past 2 weeks, I've noticed a significant change kind of in the pulse of the market, and I want to be able to come on here and talk about it. And it's one of those things where we've been on here before and we've talked, and it's like, hey, I'm noticing this. I don't have enough data to say this is the trend, but like I'm noticing something, right? And like usually we kind of do that first, then we're like, all right, this is really, so that's why we're a little bit ahead of the curve with like the pulse of the market. But you know, I can notice a change in the market based on volume of phone calls I'm getting, right? So like as an agent, I'm not an agent who cold calls or does any of that stuff. I do not call for sale by owners. I do not call withdrawals, expireds, or anything like that, right? So everything about my business is kind of like incoming, not outgoing. And so when I'm noticing the marketplace reach out to me more, it's because there's an added interest in the marketplace, right? And so it's kind of a change in the pulse of the market. And so when usually what happens for us is like there'll be a pickup in calls talking about, I want to start doing this in the spring or whatever it may be, right? And so like I kind of noticed that a little bit, but in the past 2 weeks, everything has kind of been a little bit more immediate in nature. And so that was really, really odd. And so we had gotten through the holidays, we're into the new year. And so we usually say, you know, the spring market and all this stuff. And last year we had talked about how the spring market ramped up and started like the day after Valentine's Day. And I'm not saying like we're tackling into a spring market by no means. But what I do know is 2 weeks ago, at the beginning of the week, we got down to, I saw the very first kind of like, you know, we get these constant updates of what mortgage rates are, what a prime rate is, right? For like conventional, FHA, VA, all this other stuff. And so we pretty much try to pay attention to conventionals hardcore because it shows you good trends. Beginning of last week, I think is the first time I saw 5.99 as the actual rate. So that's below 6 that you and I didn't think would probably happen until March, right? Like that's what I was predicting. I thought 5.
Well, that's what we were told.
That is what we were told. That's what we were told.
But you know, we've been hearing it might happen for months.
Correct.
And buyers have been sitting on the sidelines waiting.
Right.
Well, guess what? Like you said, the uptick is happening. And buyers, I was at Northside Division, MIBOR, and the conversation from the panel was the applications are up, way up right now in the past week. So what we talked about before we got on here was if you're a buyer and you're sitting and thinking about it, if you have clients that are buyers and sitting and thinking and waiting about it, right now is the best time to buy it. We keep saying it's always today or yesterday, not tomorrow. We may be seeing another uptick in multiple offers, but you and I are already seeing multiple offers now.
I was in a multiple offer situation on Tuesday. The house had been on the market 4 days, right? And it was the highest and best situation, right? And so the interesting thing, and we ended up getting it, ironically, because I had told them, you know, like, hey, we need to get in on this house quick because this is a really good house. I can't replicate this house. It's one of those houses. And the other buyers ended up backing away because they weren't ready to be in competitive situations already, right? Because we haven't been in it in 6 months for the most part, right? Outside of some houses here and there. And so it was a really interesting situation to like, as soon as it happened, you know, I'd already had dialogue with my clients of like, hey, like I've kind of noticed an uptick here. You know, I'm noticing an uptick in phone calls and the consumers haven't even noticed what interest rates actually are yet. And so I'm like, if people start to notice that interest rates are this low and there's an uptick in interest, it could get pretty aggressive pretty quickly. Now the stale houses, you're still fine, in my opinion. Like you still, it's absolutely a buyer's market. You're going to be able to negotiate. You're in a really strong situation. But my bigger concern is like the newer houses. Is this going to start to be the trend already, where they are getting a lot more interest, they're selling quickly and all that other stuff? Because we're talking about, days on market is really, really high, but the amount of pendings that I just saw in the past week is over double what I saw a month ago.
Very unexpected, in my opinion, to see that. But I think kind of what you're talking about, I think we should talk to the agents listening out there. If you are not talking to your buyers about a potential of a multiple offer when you sit down with them from the very beginning, today, tomorrow, the next day, or if you think that it's not happening and that's kind of a backward thing, and you still need to have that conversation. And if they're going to go look at a house that's in a unicorn or a very, very, very nice house, there's a potential it's going to be a multiple offer. And you can't explain that to them when they're in the process of trying to think about making an offer, because
they got to know beforehand.
They have to know. So that is a conversation you have to be having right now, because I was in a multiple offer situation on Christmas Eve. I actually wrote 3 offers on Christmas Eve. I mean, it was just like, where did all this happen? And that just told me that, oh my gosh, if people are this busy, either they're all off work and they're, just looking at houses for fun, but nobody's ever doing it for fun. Or we're just going to walk into a very busy January, February, and it has been busy. But I do want to say real quick, one of the offers I wrote on Christmas Eve is because they went to an open house. And I will say that I've had more of my buyers tell me they're going to open houses. And I've also heard from more agents saying they sold their house from open houses. And I have never seen, what I've been told and I've heard since I started, is 5% of a sale will come from an open house.
Correct.
So only 5% potential possibility. I think that is so much higher right now. So open houses have never been something that I said. I've always told my sellers, or in my opinion, telling anybody, open houses for an agent, right? Get more deals.
Yeah.
Right now, I think an open house is to potentially sell that property.
Yeah, I have a pretty skewed opinion on open houses as well, but I just sold a house that had been on the market 66 days in an open house last Sunday. I mean, they literally came to the open house.
It's happening. It's an amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing stat to me, and I'm not quite sure what the mentality is for buyers to go out to open houses now. But I think it's because I know in some of my cases, my buyers are like, we don't want to just keep running out there and taking you around to see houses. We just want to make sure it's the one we like. And you can't wait for an open house if the house just hit the market and it's a great house. But an open house, it may be what your buyer is going to do and be ready for them to want to make an offer. These buyers had been looking and had not ever even looked at a house yet. We just had the portal going for them. So if I had not had that conversation with them, because this house did go on multiple offers, if I hadn't had that conversation with them, when they just literally called me and said, we want to write an offer, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Let me tell you how this process might go.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Yeah. I feel like I want to educate people, both consumers and agents, to start having it now to help their clients. That's not necessarily good for me, I guess, because the more I educate everybody. But, we did really good last year in February and March because we were writing competitively when everybody else wasn't used to it. And so there's going to be a situation here for a little while if it ramps up, because I'm not saying this is becoming a massive trend. I'm just saying, like, this is what the past 2 weeks have been like. And so there's something there, right? Because the market has been in such a slow pace for the past 6 months.
Yeah, since August.
Right. I would say May even personally, but like I don't want my clients to think, oh, hey, by the way, we're in a competitive situation. And like you and I have both been there. When you bring that up and people think the market is slow, like, I'll just be honest, like, clients think you're full of shit.
Yeah, pushing you somewhere you don't want to be. But
or they think the other agent is lying.
Right.
Yeah, and they'll be like, what's going on? They're lying. There's not other offers. And I'm like, man, like, that's just
and
not
that
how
can
this
happen
works.
on 60 days on market when all of a sudden your agent or your client says, I want to write an offer, and you come back to them and go, well, we just got told there's multiple offers. Because We have buyers sitting there and waiting and watching a property, and then they get told, hey, we just got another offer. Other buyers jump in then.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting and thinking.
Or
So
the agent notifies people who were interested parties.
that's how multiple offers start.
Yeah.
So if that house has been on the market for 60 days, you can still very easily go into multiple offer situation because buyers are very sitting back right now and watching listings as well. So all of a sudden, when everybody thinks about making an offer, it's at the exact same time because now all of a sudden they're getting ready to lose the property. They can't sit and wait anymore.
For me personally, though, like I would still, if I'm writing on a stale listing, I'd still lowball because the odds are like if the other agent does that and they do pull in other offers, like they're going to give me a shot at
Well, they have to submit multiple offer notification, right? 97% list to sale ratio in Carmel, like you said, making a lower offer.
Yeah.
Westfield is 98% and Zionsville is 97%. Those are the last 30 days. 100% list to sale ratio is not really happening anymore unless it is a brand new listing. You will still possibly have to write. Well, you probably just have to do list anyway on that first day.
The one I was in, and I talked to the other agent. She priced it really, really well because. Like she was surprised it wasn't gone in a day, really, quite honestly, because like it was a little bit underpriced, and we've talked about this. Like it can be difficult to list a property because what do you do if you list a property a little bit underpriced and it sits? Like you're in a really bad spot.
And
right?
you picked a price that was still too high.
I don't.
I don't know. That's my thought.
So I don't believe that I can price a house right and it still won't sell because. Yeah, it's just how the market can be right now, But
well, I wanted to say real quick why I brought up the fact that the multiple offers, you need to have that conversation immediately, was you had already educated your buyers that they could be in a multiple offer situation, but you didn't finish what you were saying is the other people didn't move forward because they didn't want to compete. Is that what you were saying?
Correct.
So had they been told about multiple offers, they probably would have been prepared to compete.
They could have got the house for $5,000 over us on,
But they were not prepared to compete because they hadn't had that conversation.
Just because of the mindset they are currently in that, we don't have to do that. You don't have to do that, but you may have to do that. And as long as you're aware you may, we talk about it with clients, like you'll never remember the house that you paid $5,000 extra for, but you will always remember the house that you didn't get because of $5,000.
Yeah.
And so like literally like, if you're like stuck in some kind of principle, get it. It's to each of their own. You can do whatever you want to do. And I advise people to do whatever they're comfortable with, but that's just the reality of it. And I hope, for any agents out there, they listen to it, they're paying attention to the market, honestly, so they can just best serve their clients, because I would hate to see clients not get a house that they wanted because they weren't being fairly represented because, we weren't telling them what's going on with the market.
Yeah, a lack of education on the buyer side. So,
and I don't know for sure this is a massive trend. I'm just telling you what I've seen in the past 2 weeks, what I've experienced, what you've experienced, where the rates are at. We've seen an uptick in mortgage applications. Like there's just a lot of stuff kind of there that like, I don't want to say it's a trend yet, but like,
if the trend seems to be what's happening is your buyer who waits till February or March is potentially going to pay more for a house than they needed to if they didn't start shopping today. We know inventory is down right now in January, so we might have as much to look at as we could in March. But if you see a house that's out there and you're interested and the buyer likes it and wants to make an offer and they have the conversation of, but do you think there'll be a better one? There may be a better one, a different one, something they'll like just as well. But you may pay more in March or April because of just what we're seeing. And we're not just saying what two of us are seeing. We talk to agents all the time because we want to hear their pulse on the market so we can talk on the podcast as much as we can about what everybody is seeing. So like I was at Northside MyBar yesterday talking to agents, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? And we do that. So it's not just me and him saying, here's what we see. We consistently poll agents as we talk to them so we can talk on this podcast about what we're seeing.
And it's, I think in December, I do believe we were discussing, I took a month off here, but like from the podcast or whatever, but I believe we were discussing like, is this the bottom of the market? Right. And like, there's just a good indication, like we are coming back up now, and the bottom of the market has passed. Because everybody wants to time the bottom of the market, and we're like, dude, just buy, you know.
Well,
It may have passed.
National Association of Realtors, the president said we will be up 16% this year. That was
16? Wait, in what?
That's
volume,
what NAR
or?
said.
We're not
In
talking
sales.
appreciation. Oh, okay.
In
okay,
sales.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's what National Association of Realtors just stated last week. We will be up 16% in sales this year. So be ready.
And I'm going to for sure misquote him, but I saw Brad Coughing, who's been on here, and we're going to have him on again, who does all the stats for MyBoard and everything. And I think he said something like, I mean, this is me ballparking because I was surprised by the number, but I think he said that home values went up. I think it was either 3 or 4%. I mean, it was a
I
low
saw
number,
that
right?
too. But I just last week did Hamilton County. Hamilton County was down.
So, but that's what I was going to say. So, like, that's all of
That's
the
the donut counties.
And that also takes into account the beginning of the year where it was up 10 or whatever it was, right? And so, like, we went down 6.
It was a downward
stuff.
trend.
Yeah.
And so if you talk about what I just said, the list of sale ratio stats, if I look and I go back, I could go back a whole year in this book. We can go back 3 years in these books. But the 97%, let's just say for Carmel, list of sale ratio is right now 97% for the past 30 days. If we go back to January, I don't know what that would be, and I could quickly look and see. But the 97% list of sale ratio shows we are on a downward trend on pricing.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is selling at 99 and 100%. And I do know that last year I was quoting 99% list to sale ratio during the year at some point. So yes, is it up 3% like he said for the donut counties? But that's up 3% from where we were much higher, and
Correct.
now it's down lower. But it's nothing like we were seeing 20% and 16%. We're nowhere near that anymore.
No. I don't know. It's just, it's all interesting to me, you know, kind of see how it all plays out. You know, we're here to kind of just tell you like what's going on in the market, what we're seeing. You know, we're lucky enough to do enough volume. Like it was another thing we were talking about. So saw the stat for the nation of agents and what they've sold. And so first of all, I want to go back. And so like the stats I just made up, the 3%, the 10%, the 6%, like that is me giving an example. I don't actually have that number off the top of my head because it was just like free thought as we were talking.
But Brad will be on, and he will
have those
throw
numbers.
all these out,
Correct.
and they're going to be a really good podcast
Right.
to listen to know, so you can throw these numbers out to your clients when you're talking to them.
So the other number I was looking at is, you know, the number of sales for agents nationally, right? And so this is another thing where it's like you have to understand the data and how skewed it can be, right? Because there are large teams or certain teams that, you know, every sale of like, let's say they have 4 agents underneath them, every sale tracks under the one team lead, right? And so it can look like an agent sells 100 or 300 houses or, you know, 80 or whatever that number is. There's other teams that like don't do it that way, and it's all kind of reported individually. And so you have this national number that is a little skewed, but I still do think it's a good indicator, right? And so like I write them where like they don't write under me, right? And so like it's everybody's individual, and so you don't see like what our team number registers is, how it registers, but like I know you know, FC Tucker knows all that other stuff. You do it the other way. You actually yell at me to do it the way you do it, where everybody writes under you, right? And there's a variety of benefits to doing it.
I've
right?
never yelled at you.
You've strongly encouraged. And so it's interesting though, like when we're talking about like our knowledge base and the pulse, and like, you know, I've got a new guy joining, and he's like, man, like you guys are really kind of like humble about like how much you guys actually do, and like I don't think anybody knows until you got into the industry like the level of stuff we do or that you were to do. And so there's 1.3 million agents nationally, and
That are members of NAR,
that are
right?
members
These are
of
NAR stats, right?
These are NAR stats. And it was over 900,000 sold 0. Oh, you got the number here.
Yeah.
Okay. So over 900, like it's 930,000 or something, like it sold 0, right? And it was
You said 960. It was 960,000 agents,
which
sold.
was over 70%. It was 71%.
70% sold 0 last year.
Correct. But
That
then,
are licensed.
But then when you like start adding that in, so then it was like how many did 1 to 4, and that was 14% of agents, right? Which took me up to like 80. I mean, there was like point this and point that, right? So, but like it took us up to like 86% of agents sold less than 5 houses last year, right? But then you go like, how many did like less than 10? And what was it? It was another
95%.
It was another 10%. So 95% of agents sold less than 10 houses last year, right? The crazy thing about that to me is like I get, and like it gets even crazier. Like as you go up, it's like how many sold less than 15 or 20.
Well, it's
or whatever.
99% under 20.
Yeah,
99% of the agents out
so
there.
the math didn't math super correct it because like when you do the rest of them, it was like a little bit over a percent. So there's an error rate or whatever. But like basically, I would say like 98% and change sold less than 20. 20 houses is a lot of houses for the record. But like when you're talking to like Shelly and I, like I sold like my team, I oversaw 104 transactions last year. And you oversaw, how many did you oversee last year?
44.
44. Like that isn't 1% in the nation. That is like, it was like 0.8 and 0.2% of agents volume in the nation. What I've been noticing is there is a larger and larger disparity of producing agents and non-producing agents. Now, our goal with the podcast is how do you turn non-producing agents into producing agents, right? Like that's the whole goal, is to increase the success rate.
Or increase their sales as
Right.
well with the information we can provide and our guests can provide as well. So
Correct.
hoping to do that.
But like the reason like I feel confident to be able to come on here and like say these things and like that you can say these things, it's like, you know, like we downplay it and we're like, hey, we do a good level of business. Like we're like not even we are above the top 1% in the nation for production for agents, right? Like, I mean, like that's, you know, like that's probably the only time I ever say something like that. It's the beginning of the year. We're talking about pulses of the market. There's a reason I feel confident in my opinions on these things. And it's because like the reality of it is like, we're kind of in it a little bit more than most people. And so take that for what it's worth. You know, I'm not trying to validate my knowledge base, but I actually am, you know, like there's a reason we feel confident in our opinions on this stuff.
Right. And the other stat is how many quit. Like
I don't have that stat. What's that stat?
Well, it's a stat that I don't have the exact number to, but it was a lot. A lot of people just left the business.
It was a tough year. You and I are going to talk about that.
Yeah. So why did everybody quit? Like this past year, and it's not just you and me and saying this. Was a very hard year.
Yeah, it was. So what does that mean, right? So for me, when I tell people it was a hard year, it was a hard year in the sense of, because we did a ton of transactions, but there's so much fatigue of the disparity of buyer and seller leverage, in my opinion, right? Of post-COVID, there was so much leverage for sellers to kind of get away with whatever. Then buyers took a little bit back, right? And then as interest rates went up, you know, it kind of like leveled the playing field a little bit. But then as the market pivoted this year to be more of a buyer's market, buyers really wanted to flex their muscle.
They pushed back.
And that's okay. They're allowed to.
But the amount of mutual releases
it was really high.
Real high.
It was really
like
high.
It's just getting to the table. It's not just a known. Like, yep, we'll get there. We'll get through it. Buyers are pushing back.
And
sellers are pushing back, right? They're like, no, forget it. I'm out.
There were deals that fell apart that I would hear about from other agents that would fall apart over $1,500, or they would fall apart about the sellers being a jerk. Like it didn't even matter about what the negotiation piece was. It started to be like stand on principle stuff.
Oh yeah.
And deals
and
were
agents
falling
against
apart.
agents though too. Yeah. It's just like the agent's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, whoa, you're not going to do that. Like we were hearing all of that stuff, but the amount of the mutual releases just shows that getting to the table and getting to the closing for your client is not a given, and it's not easy right now. And buyers are expecting a lot more right now because they think they should, and for whatever reason it is. And sellers are saying, no, because my neighbor sold their house in a day last week, and I'll just go back on the market. And we keep trying to talk about how that their perception, the sellers, of what the market is, it starts with you at the table. Yeah. We are not in that market anymore. So
here's the weird part,
oh my
though.
Gosh.
So if it pivots back again, what's it going to be like? Because buyers now think they have all this leverage. And if it starts to get competitive, like I just experienced it on Tuesday, buyers walked over a house that, maybe they could have gotten and said, we got it, but all because they were in the same, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they didn't want to compete because they shouldn't have to, because that's not the market we're in. And that's just education.
Yeah.
But the market has been difficult. That's one thing we just want to make sure, if you're all listening, and tell them about Raw.
So Raw. So that is more for those of us who are in the industry. So it is something that's a national thing, and we have it here locally now. We've been doing it for a year. It's Realtor and affiliate wellness, and it's basically a place for agents, affiliates, so loan officers, title, home warranty, all these people where they can come. And then they have like a safe, secure place where they can kind of talk about what's going on, because for you or I, so this will be really interesting, because next week our podcast is my wife and Shelly's husband are going to be on here. And so I have to wear a ton of hats, right? And like, I'm the person that everybody comes to for solutions. And sometimes I have problems myself, and it's like, where do I go to with that? And like, sometimes it feels really hard when I'm always the answer guy for everybody, and like I don't have answers for
where
myself.
Do you go?
Right. And so,
and I don't even think our spouses are where we can go, because they just can't figure out what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
They just have no clue.
That'll
Nobody
be the
does.
interesting thing next week.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like basically Shelly and I are going to get yelled at for an hour. But it's so I have a place, or you have a place, or anybody who's in the business can go, so they can actually feel heard, vent. We have resources for whether it be finances, mental health, grief, divorce, whatever it may be. So that is it's actually we have we have one tomorrow.
Yeah, this Friday.
Yeah,
well, I will say that was brought up at the meeting yesterday at Northside from one of the panel members, and I'm not giving away what was talked about there, but the general consensus was from everybody there, it's a difficult market.
Yeah.
And just what people are going through. So.
And if I'm not handling my stuff and my own personal mental health or whatever it may be, there's no way I can say that I am taking the best care of my clients. And so I have to take care of myself so that I can best serve my clients. My job, my role is a fiduciary responsibility to take care of other people specifically, right, around this industry. And if I'm not taking care of myself, there is literally no way I can be on stable footing to take care of somebody else.
Yeah, your mental capacity is really just filled on the wrong side. So just if you're listening, yes, it was very difficult last year. It wasn't just you.
Yeah.
And that's just
you are not alone.
It is the consensus of everybody I've talked to.
Yeah. And so I think the thing is like, we want to give people information so that you can start to be upfront with your clients, so they're prepared, so you're less stressed when you run up against this and you weren't prepared. Right. That's really kind of what we try to accomplish with all of this. And
just kind of give an idea of what we see in the market, because we do spend a lot of time on the stats. Like I said, we do spend a lot of time talking to other agents to feel what the market's doing, so we can present this to you, and you don't have to hopefully do as much, but take the information for what you can to help your clients be prepared for what they're walking into as a buyer or a seller.
Yeah. I do want to get into the stats.
Yeah.
When I was looking at these stats, right, so I haven't really ran these in a couple of weeks, and so I have the last week that we looked at, which was week before Christmas. And so in Fishers, I had 28 houses hit the market this past week. I have 194 actually on the market. Sorry, I apologize about my runny nose. 28 hit the market, anywhere from $214,000 to $1.69 million. 21 of them are still active, 7 pended within a week. So the interesting number is 35 pended last week. And when I look at the number for Fishers, the last week I did it, 18 pended in a week.
And that was right before Christmas, yeah.
Over double. My days on market in Fishers, the average is 66, the median is 68. But when I look back at what Fisher's inventory was that a month ago, it was 226. So I've lost over 30 houses in inventory. In Noblesville, I had 30 hit the market, anywhere from 160 to 829K. 20 of them are still active, 10 of them pended. 41 total houses pended, right? So that's like including the stale houses. I have 187 on the market, and prior to Christmas, I had 221. So I've lost 40 in inventory there. And my average days on market in Noblesville is 69, and the median is 56. So, you know, I'm encroaching upon 70 days on market as the average. Mm-hmm. But simultaneously, inventory's dropping significantly. And
That's because we had a lot on the market.
yeah, and I've got more pending in a week than is going on sale. And there will be a tipping point with that.
Yeah. It's showing what
Yeah.
we've been talking about, that
Yeah.
this market is picking up, and at some point, if it continues at this pace, buyers are going to lose leverage.
Yeah, 100%.
So, speaking to your sellers, again, we're still where we are right now. We can only go back 3 months and see what we're seeing for them for comps and all that stuff. But projecting the future is be prepared. Sellers are going to get more or less days on market, more than likely, and buyers are going to lose their leverage. So
Yeah.
in Carmel, 27 hit the market. Only 8 of those pended, but a total of 24. So we almost had 0 inventory increase. But the average days on market for the sold, the pending ones of 8 days was 42. A median was 41. So we're roughly at 42. And active, we currently have 137 houses active in Carmel, with an average day of 102 and a median of 62. So the houses that are sitting for a long time. We are over 3 months in inventory for our average for active homes. So those are going to potentially start to come off the market like we're just seeing, and the days on market should continue to go down, where the average for the pendings was 42, but the sitting is 102. That's a huge discrepancy. Sold in the past 30 days, there were 79 that sold over the Christmas break. That's, to me, 79, that's crazy. That shows the market did not slow. It did not quit. Even with the holidays, we continued on a great pace. On those sold, the average days on market were 35 and 23. And like I said earlier, list to sale ratio is 97%. So buyers are able to negotiate, mostly on homes that have sat too long. So that would be average days on market of 35. They got 97% list to sale ratio. So, it doesn't have to be 90 days or anything. Westfield, 36 hit the market. Only 3 of those pended, a total of 19 pended. But of the pending properties, average was 71 and the median was 69. So that's over 2 months, just coming under 3 months for what pended. So we're seeing a 3-month inventory. 223 are currently active in Westfield with an average day of 98 and a median of 77. So they're sitting. Sold 99 sold in the past month, which again over Christmas, that's a lot. 54 was the average days and 28, and the list to sale ratio was 98% on those 54 average days on market. So a little negotiation room. Zionsville, 8 hit the market, only 1 pended, but a total of 8 pended. So there was no inventory increase in Zionsville at all. The average days on market of the pendings was 55, median was 57. You don't normally see that flip like that. 48 total active in Zionsville right now with an average day of 124 and a median of 81. So Zionsville's market with the current setting properties are high. Sold 27 in the past 30 days with an average days of 45 and a median of 20. And their sales were list to sale ratio with 97%. So those are my stats.
So I mean, when we're sitting here talking about like what this market is looking like and what these numbers mean and all this other stuff, like I can only tell you what I feel based on what I'm seeing. Like the whole purpose of this podcast was to be able to give little snippets of windows of the pulse of the market during any given time. Like what Brad comes on and does, he looks at broad scopes of time, right? Which is a much different analysis of the market.
And he looks at all of MIBOR.
He looks at all of MIBOR, and we're looking at specific areas. So for all I know, I'm going to be on here in a month telling you, hey, this is trending backwards, right? Like you and I were talking about, like with everything that's going on in politics, is it going to cause tension in the marketplace in the sense of consumer confidence being low And so everything slows down. Or will everything happen and consumer confidence goes up, right? Like there's so much going on. They're talking about, will they cap credit card rates? You know, they talked about some of the stuff that they want them to buy mortgage-backed securities to drive down interest rates. I kind of like where the interest rates are right now, personally. I don't want to see us go down or up. The other one was the 50-year mortgage, which I think is an insanely bad idea.
That's been haven't heard that at all. Ever since it came up and disappeared, or
right.
you know.
Well, so they were meeting on it and all this other stuff. 50-year mortgage, to me, like, I get it. You know, you're basically, it's going to drop your interest rate, or not your interest rate, your monthly payment, because you're paying it over a longer time. And like, why does it matter? Because nobody stays in a house that long and blah, blah, blah. My bigger problem is not now, but if that is not your forever home, you're paying so much interest
up front.
You will have less equity when you go to sell, right? And we're basically just finding a way for people to buy stuff that they can't afford, which is going to put them in more debt and a worse situation, and it'll cause a much larger problem in the next 10 to 20 years. That's a personal opinion. As a real estate agent, it's great for me, right? I mean, it just is.
Anything to make the market move, right?
Correct. As a human, I think this is a horrible idea. And like, I'm a human first. So like, I just don't think it's a good idea. I think there's other solutions out there. I think there's other answers. I'm not smart enough, nor does anybody give a shit about what my opinion is on them. So
why we're not in politics, right?
That
We're
is
just
correct.
a real estate agent.
It's a variety of reasons why I'm not in politics.
And just a real quick stat that changed last year, went from 38 to 40 is the average median, or the average age. The average age of a first-time home buyer.
That's insane.
Is 40.
That's so.
Like, that means they are literally, if we're averaging it, could be 48, 50.
Yeah.
Like, that just changed. It went up 2 years in just 1 year.
Most
so what's
people
it gonna
our
do?
age, your age, and my age, our parents were in their forever home by 40.
Right.
You know?
Or in their second forever home.
Yeah, exactly. And
'Cause
we
they
have
got
people
too many
not even
kids.
getting into their first. Because a lot of people are, what would you say? I would say the average amount of houses people buy in their lifetime, like, let's not include a retirement home, right? You know, like when you downsize. So let's say, like, you know, as you get up towards retirement, I would say most people are 3 houses. Do you think, like, you have your first house,
then you get married or whatever, and then
need a larger house.
then you have kids, and then it could be your third. Yeah,
then you
so
get the
2
one
to
where-
3.
I would say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so those kind of things.
You're getting into your
very
third house when
interesting.
you're like 70, based on that number.
Yeah,
You
right. Well, you won't. No, you'll
never have it.
Never
You'll
have a
never
third
have
house.
it.
You'll be in your one house, maybe. But if you're 40,
It'll be called the nursing home, and that's where my kids will be putting
so
me.
that stat alone is just very interesting for the market. But real quick, the Senate Bill 1001 is being presented this year, just coming up very soon, which is about getting the cities to have less restrictions on building and zoning and everything like that. And that's coming up to try to loosen the time it takes to get new houses up and all of that kind of stuff. I do not have the full breakdown of that, but it was brought up again yesterday at the meeting I was at. And mayors are pushing back on that because they don't want to lose all that control. So there are things out there that even the state is doing to try to loosen up inventory, get more affordable housing and stuff like that. So if you care to pay attention, there's a lot nationally and in
locally.
Indiana. Yeah.
And even that one, it's like, I don't have I'm in the industry. I don't even have an opinion on that because I can make an argument both ways. That's where I like to be at, is like, I can kind of see both sides. Like, I can see why we would want to loosen restrictions so that we can create more affordable housing, right? The problem, though, is if I loosen restrictions, all of a sudden I'm in a situation where I can't control housing as well, and then maybe property values tank because I have people who are not taking care of things as well, right? So, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't have an opinion on that one.
I'm going to
my
say,
opinion will be whatever my wife thinks my opinion would be.
Right. Well, I'm just going to say something that's very cool that my board does, and they're offering this, is on January 26th is Legislative Day in Indianapolis. And this is where you can go as a real estate agent and see what the housing market is being talked about with your legislature. This is a great day to be able to be involved and sit there and listen to all of these ideas that are out there and what they're talking about and how they're trying to fight against it or for it. great information. But again, this is legislative day. MIBOR offers it, and it is basically all day the 26th of January. Different sessions. You don't have to go to all of it, but I'm going to that, and I just think it's going to be a very interesting because we need to understand what is happening.
With you.
Yeah, it's going to be fabulous. It's just more stuff, but this is where you really learn about what's going on around you that actually impacts your profession.
This is how you end up getting involved. You go check something like that out. Get involved in RPAC. RPAC is the Realtor Political Action Committee, which is involved in, we're trying to have people who are advocates for
us,
not just
and
us
the
as
market,
an industry,
and the housing market,
for our consumers as well. So there's a lot that goes into all of that. And so if you're in the industry and you're not involved in RPAC, I highly encourage you to do that.
One of the things they'll be talking about is repealing the law in Fishers and Carmel of the 10% rule.
Interesting one.
So highly recommend you guys go to that. But anyway, I think we've covered everything for today.
Only thing, go Hoosiers.
Yeah,
I know you're
I'm a Purdue girl, but you have to root for the
I'm an IU
Hoosiers.
grad, man.
Yeah,
Come on,
you got to root for it. I think they're going to win. Absolutely.
I hope so. Well, hey, it'll be so we're going to do our podcast on Monday, but it will come out later in the week. But next week, which is also the national championship game, but it'll be the airing of grievances from our spouses, and so send help. It's going to be bad.
Or if you have specific questions you would like a spouse to answer, but a lot of you, if you are married or have a boyfriend that are dealing with all of this, if you have questions specifically you want us to talk about, we've had a lot of people we've been telling what we're going to be doing, and everybody's like, I can't wait.
Yeah, because they're not going to be on the freaking hot seat. You know what I mean? My wife is going to send in comments that she wants to answer specifically.
Anonymous member.
Yeah.
Anonymous member.
She's going to be like, hey, why doesn't your husband pick up his socks or something? I don't know. It'll be really interesting. It'll be really neat. I know I joke about my wife a lot. She's a sweetheart. She's a saint. It'll be interesting to put her on here. And
it'll be fun for everybody to meet them as well.
She's scared to death of it. This is not her thing, She's not the person who wants to be on a podcast.
Yeah,
so.
David's kind of the same thing, but we had people asking us, talking about how spouses, how do they deal with us being real estate agents? And I know a lot of people, you all have spouses or boyfriends or girlfriends, and y'all are dealing with it. So this will be interesting.
It'll be fun. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
And Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker. My phone's 317-201-2601. I'll talk to you later. Bye.